Welcome, everybody. We'll be getting started in just a minute in our session as we're letting people join us in today's session, where we'll be hearing from local governments working with Doughnut Economics. Welcome, everybody. We'll be getting started in just 1 minute. Okay, we'll get started to make the most out of our time, and then we'll be letting people in as they're joining us. So welcome and thank you for joining us at our session today. My name is Leonora Grcheva. I'm the Cities and Regions Lead at the Doughnut Economics Action Lab. I'm supporting the work of local and regional governments that work with Doughnut Economics. And over the past 3 or 4 years at Deal, we've been learning with and from cities that have been picking up the tools, the ideas of Doughnut Economics, and adapting them, contextualizing them in very different ways in their work in local government. So I'm very happy that today we can be joined by many of these change makers that have been doing that work in cities. Today we'll also be launching the version 2 of the Cities and Regions Let's Get Started guide. This is a guide for anybody working in and with local governments that's offering various ways to get started, a library of possible tools, resources, and examples, and now including also 12 case studies of 12 places that contributed their experiences and their journeys with Doughnut Economics. So today we'll have five of those case studies present their work. And I'll be sharing the resources that I mentioned in the chat. So we'll have, I'm just gonna share my screen for just a second. We'll be hearing from Grenoble in France, Tomelilla in Sweden, Cornwall in the UK, Valence Romans in France, and Nanaimo in Canada today. So we have a lot of insights to be hearing about, a lot of experiences. And so we will be I'll be introducing the guests one by one, and we invite you, as we likely won't have time to actually have a discussion so that we can find space for everybody to share their experience. We invite you to share any comments, questions that you have for the speakers in the chat, and we'll be picking them up during and after the presentations. So without further ado, I will pass it to Nathalie from Grenoble, who's the Doughnut project manager from the city of Grenoble, and will be sharing with us a bit about the work of Grenoble with Doughnut Economics. Nathalie, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. And thanks again to the Deal team for hosting this great session. So I've been working for 2 years now in the city of Grenoble as Doughnut project manager. And I will just show you an overview of what we've been doing so far. So first of all, Doughnut Economics was applied in the city following European Green Capital Award in 2022. It's a political approach which aims to settle a common framework for reflection and action towards a more distributive and regenerative economy and society. It was voted in February 2022 by the City Council, and the global goal is to offer children born in 2022 the opportunity to celebrate their 18th birthday in an ecological, safe, and socially just city and world in 2040. This dynamic is based on three strong pillars. First one, it's linking social and environmental challenges. Second, reconciling reconciling reason and emotions, and last but not least, connecting local and global scale. It's a Grenoble 2040 a political approach is a global framework for questioning and evaluating current public policies, for integrating and developing actions that are made locally, and for federating local stakeholders to anticipate future disruption and building together our future. I've started in 2022 in September to work on this city data portrait to have an idea of where we stand in terms of transitions relative to target viability objectives and sustainability thresholds. It was first experimentation of downscaling Doughnut Economics to Grenoble. And I'm currently working on a second version, which will better reflect the local authorities' skills and competencies in relation to local issues. For this first data portrait, you can see in blue, it's the comparison with the French national average data. So it was quite interesting to have this ability to compare the different scales. Here is a quick overview. So as the initial diagnosis was well received within the municipality, we pursued the work working on different level, on a strategical political level, also on the assessment impact assessment on a project level, and also with citizens. So after the city data portrait, I've made some Doughnut mapping of the more important transversal plan and strategies on this within the city to show how these actions, for example, here with the Air Energy Climate Action Plan, is taking action in many different dimensions. I've also done it for other structural policies, such as the municipal health plan or the scheme to promote socially and environmentally responsible purchasing, and many others. And this is also about how to plan trajectories and paths toward the future and Grenoble in 2040 that are addressing current issues and challenges. The financial and accounting department of Grenoble municipality asked me to develop an impact assessment tool for decision-making processes. And I've developed an analysis grid, which is based on 3 environmental axes you can see on screen: climate change with energy transition, energetical transition issues, biodiversity ecosystems, which include also pollutions, resource management regarding inputs, outputs, but also waste for the environmental responsibilities. And regarding the social responsibilities, you have human health with vital basic needs, social cohesion with education, culture, hospitality, citizenship, etc., and social justice with question of social welfare, vulnerabilities, inequalities, etc. This analysis grid is based on 6 axes of analysis I just mentioned, and they are all divided into 3 sub-axes, which are related with impact criteria, which are also connected to political targets. And the innovative thing with this tool within the municipality is that it was conceived on a double materiality. It means we will both look at environmental and social impacts on the territory, so the impact on a more large geographical area, and also on the population, users, beneficiaries, but also the impacts directly related to the implementation and operation of the project, which could be related to the environmental footprint of the municipality, and also the labor conditions of the civil servants directly implied on the project. This is just a quick overview of our rating principles. So the project managers has just as a checklist to go through the survey with 36 questions, which are all related to target political objectives. and choose the rating that best corresponds to the project impact. And then we offer Doughnut visualization to show the opportunities and weaknesses of each project. It was made to help the budgetary and political prioritization of the investment project still on study this year, and we will be keeping with this. Then we also have another level of downscaling Doughnut Economics, which is with the citizen. Here is a quick overview of the Citizen Transition Biennale. It's an event we organize every 2 years. And last year we had the chance to welcome some deal members, and Kate did her first conference in French, and we also organized some citizen workshops with real-size Doughnut exhibition that allows to immerse citizens into the Doughnut economics concept with sensitive approach, starting from their everyday life and experience. And we also enjoyed this event to welcome some other cities and countries that are already working with Doughnut Economics. So it was a great day of sharings and learnings together. And yes, sorry. And I'm also enjoying the local events organized by the city. For example, the Christmas market, music festivals, the European Month, Mountains Movie Festival, discrimination forum with young people, etc., to organize some raising awareness stands and animations to give an overview of Doughnut Economics on a thematical workshop, or more generally on Doughnut Economics entry. So as you've seen, in Grenoble, we really made an effort to test how we can apply it on different level. Visualization tool with the city data portrait, analysis tool with the Doughnut mapping of the main strategies, political strategies, the monitoring tool with the impact assessment grid, but also with consultation and trying to work more and more with citizens also. And internally, we are really now trying to implement Doughnut Economics as a common transversal reference framework, even if we still have some remaining challenges on political dimension with the necessarily arbitrary choice of the data, of the indicators, how to set some target objectives when they are not scientific targets. We have also limited administrative powers and skills as a municipality, so we also have to work with other administrations. On technical dimension, we have this challenge of integrating different level of analysis. We are really focusing now on the local territory level, but we really want to assess more on our global imported and exported impact, social and ecological. And there is also the challenge of the data availability and non-existent or incomplete, unsatisfactory data. And last but not least, the operational dimension, how to articulate Doughnut Economics approach with other tools that are developed within the municipality, such as ecological accounting or other changing in the way the municipality works and is being managed. And also the big challenge of acculturation of all of the local authorities staff, 4,000 civil servants in Grenoble. So it's work in progress, but now I'm glad sometimes I arrived in a meeting and people have already heard about Doughnut. So it's really nice. And before concluding, I would just say that, however, political and technical support is a real chance, and they are essential to fully embrace the fields of Doughnut Economics possibilities. I thank you very much for your attention. And a little breaking news: I will be publishing in an hour now the report I've written, on 2 years of Doughnut Economics in the municipality of Grenoble, where you will be able to find some sharing, learnings, and tools, methodology, So please feel free to share it and to take advantage of it also. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Nathalie, for all your work and as always, generosity in sharing it. I really appreciate finding the time and capacity as a city to be fully reporting on the work you're doing so that others can learn. So I really recommend everybody to check out the report. It will be linked also in the cities guide. All of the materials of all the amazing things that cities are doing will be linked in our cities guide as a one-point spot. If you have any questions for Nathalie, drop them in the chat and she'll jump on it, I'm sure. And I'll jump straight to our next speaker, which is Stefan Persson, a strategic developer from the municipality of Tomelilla in Sweden, to talk a bit about their different yet similar journey and experience. Stefan, floor is yours.
Yes, thank you for having me, and thank you, Nathalie, for a great presentation. You're inspiring us all. Let's see if I can share my screen here. You see it in presentation now?
Yes.
Yeah, great. I'm a strategic developer at the municipality of Tomelilla, and we have been working as the first municipality in Sweden, actually, with Doughnut Economics about 3 years now, starting back in 2021. Just a few words about Tomelilla. I guess Grenoble is a bit more known than Tomelilla. We are a small municipality in the southern part of Sweden, really rural community. In the very southeast, the closest cities are Malmö and Copenhagen. We're quite well known as a tourist destination for nature, food, and arts. And we attract a lot of national and international attraction, especially for our food and nature. So, we have been working within 4 main areas for Doughnut Economics. We started with evaluation and measure progress in the quality of life program that we adopted back in 2021. And we also worked with tools for dialogue and decision support and planning a new school. And I will say a few words about all these 4 main areas. Where we started was trying to find a good evaluation tool for our quality of life program. The program replaced both sustainability program and public health program, and we found ourselves in a situation that we needed some form of a transformative, simple compass of visualization these very complex areas, and that's where we found Doughnut, and then we just started using it and found out that we can use it in so many different areas. But this is our main interest to Doughnut Economics. To the right here, you see the first city portrait. We've downscaled the data portrait for the municipality. This was finished just a few months ago, but it is an annual report. So this is our sustainability report nowadays. So we have started working with our second data portrait now, and we will do it every year and report this to our citizens and our politicians. So this is kind of how we report nowadays. Sorry. The second area is workshopping. This is just one case of workshopping. We've worked a lot of different workshops. This case is from one of the first workshops we held with citizens. This is from our small library. We had a visitor from University of Freiburg that studied in Doughnut Economics and how to engage Doughnut Economics with municipal citizens in the municipality. So it was a perfect opportunity for us to test it. But we also had a lot of workshops, both within the municipality with different areas of interest, for example, circular building, youth's mental health, and so on, using the Doughnut as a tool for finding common grounds to discuss sustainability issues from a holistic perspective. And I can really recommend, if you haven't worked with Doughnut Economics before, start with workshops, because then you really see the strength with the holistic picture.
nobody really responded.
What do you mean no one responded? As in when they were trying?
Someone's not muted here. Please mute. Then we're also working with, as Nathalie showed, her work with the decision support. This is something we're working with as well, very much inspired by Cornwall. That was first. We are hoping to introduce our decision support this autumn. I've said that for half a year now, and now it's November, so it might be spring 2025 instead. But we're very much looking forward to introducing this and connecting it to the data portrait to kind of build a more holistic picture of both then as an evaluation tool. So you have both this decision side of it, and then you have the evaluation side, and we kind of talk the same language in both aspects of it. Our politicians are very keen on starting to use this as well, but it is we are a small municipality and we're not many people working with it, so it takes time to integrate and develop it. So, the last area is maybe the most interesting right now. It's actually building a new school with the help of the Doughnut Economics principles. This is actually the first initiative from our politicians. Otherwise, the Doughnut Economics in Tomelilla has been very much a civil servant initiative. But after the last election, we got the opportunity to actually plan the new school with the principals. And as far as I know, this is the first time anyone tries to build a new school with the help of the Doughnut Economics principles. The quotation here is from our procurement, because we don't have the skills to plan a new school, so we open up for consultants to help us, and we got great design consultants and architect consultants to help us to develop a master plan for the new school. So this is kind of the stage we're in now, developing the master plan, identifying how to actually think sustainability in holistic perspective when planning the school. And the result of this so far is that we need to work both with green areas, of course, but also working very much with the local resources, both in a case of local food chains. Can we actually grow our food in the school area, but also the surrounding area? Can we use the food from there? But also using it as a material, local produced materials. We do have, for example, hemp. That's mostly used for isolation now, but also it could also be used for food. Unfortunately, the local production of hemp is not certified as a building material so far, so we might have to import it from France, but we hope to be able to actually grow it close to where the school is going to be built, and then certify it locally as well, so we can use it. The next step for us is to do a lot of evaluations, analyses, and see how start to plan with the sketches for school. The master plan is a very rough sketch, so we have lots of steps before we can actually start building. And one of the first steps was to conduct a nature value inventory to see what kind of values there is in this area, both vegetables and animal life, insects and so on, so to see what we have to take extra care of when we're creating this area. Normally in Sweden you buy that service from consultants, and that's what we did as well, but to stay true to the principles, to engage with those that we're building the school for, we didn't ask the consultants just to conduct the inventory as they usually do it, but we asked them to do it together with the kids that are actually going to the school later. And that this is partly in Swedish, but that ended up as a great article in our local newspaper when the consultants, together with the children, conducted the inventory and identified values. And that's, of course, not only important for the school building, but it's also important to start engaging kids already from the start and building their knowledge about nature values as well. So we're hoping to keep going in that direction and involve both and teachers and citizens, but also national and international experts in the building. So we're very much open for networking and knowledge exchange. So please just let us know if you have any great thoughts about this next school, the school for next generation. That's so as far as we have come so far. We're also trying to integrate the climate action plan into the evaluation and decision tool. So that's kind of a, if you're working in a municipality, you know that's a complex process, but we're trying to kind of simplify it and use Doughnut Economics very much as a visualization tool and a compass for how to work holistically with sustainability. I think I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I really do appreciate also the perspectives of someone you started doing, which has been probably the first place, which is really test the grounds on a single big project that crosses so many sectors. It's an educational institution, like kind of really testing through from the procurement, how does procurement need to change in order to make the most of it and to actually live up to the principles? How does educational planning needs to change? How does collaboration with students need to change? So many different steps and opportunities to be really kind of bringing in the principle and questioning the different parts of the system that kind of disable or enable. And I'm sure we'll be learning on each step and on each series of barriers you hit and unleash as well. Do shout out any questions to Stefan, or also just comments of general comments and sharing your experience or appreciating or whatever it is.
Stefan? Sorry to disturb you. Can I ask question? We can ask question? Or?
We don't have time to ask it verbally, so if you ask it in the chat. If you write it in the chat, Stefan will and I'm very bummed about this. I should have kind of fought for more time, but I wanted all the city to speak and somehow there's no room for questions, so it's my fault. So please type up your question and Stefan will pick it up. And if we end up with some minutes extra in the end, we'll use it for that. But otherwise, I'll invite the next city, which is Cornwall. Well, it's not a city; it's a region. Cornwall in the UK. Emma, don't score me. Emma Williamson, policy specialist from Cornwall Council, to share about their work. Emma,
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. Just let me find the presentation, which of course has disappeared. There it is. So hopefully you can see that.
Yes.
So thank you very much. It's great to be here. Yes, as you say, Cornwall is not a city. It's a region in the southwest of the UK, quite similar to Tomelilla in the sense that it's mostly rural, thriving tourist industry, but with a long industrial heritage that's still developing today. As a local authority, as a council in the UK, we need to make sure that our decision-making process is evidence-based, that it's clear the reasons we're taking the decisions, it's transparent, and that we understand the impact that these decisions, policies, projects will have on individuals, on different groups of people, communities, and the environment within Cornwall. So what we did was we developed, back in 2021, the Cornwall Development and Decision Wheel. And so how we got there started back in 2019. So back then, like a number of UK councils, the council declared a climate emergency and brought together a carbon neutral action plan. And key to that was there were a number of different actions in there, but one of the things was about how do we make sure that environmental assessments form part of our sorry.
Really sorry to interrupt you. There's like gray boxes on your screen that are kind of blocking part of it. Would you be okay if I share your slides instead of you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, sorry, I don't know. I could try again. Yeah. No, that's fine.
Relieve the pressure off you and tell me where to.
It might be my internet connection. Apologies.
We were here, right?
So there, yes. So sorry. So yes, back in 2019. So we developed a climate change decision wheel. which at that point was an Excel-based tool, which was just used for our key decision makings, our cabinet decision makings, which are the big formal decisions. And the tool that we developed was based on the Doughnut Economics model, as this was felt to be a good way to make sure we brought in all the relevant environmental impacts and assessments, but also that we balanced that with the principles of social justice, and that we were able to fit it to our own local decision-making context. In 2020, we developed it further. We added in our equality and inclusion assessment as part of the decision wheel, and we created what we now call the Cornwall Development and Decision Wheel. If you go to the next slide, that just shows you what that looks like. And it's a digital tool, and I'll show you a little bit more about how it works later on. But basically, it's there to help us assess the impacts of our decisions through the different lenses. We've got environmental and social on the first wheel, and equality and inclusion on the second wheel. And if you go through to the next slide, what I just wanted to do was set that in the context. So at Cornwall Council, like all other councils, we have a business plan that sets out what our mission is for the council, and how we will achieve that through our 4 focus on priority outcomes. And those are set out in the outcome development plans that you can see there. And as you can see, those are thematic areas. So they each focus on different, but to some extent cross-cutting areas of council policy and delivery. But all those outcomes and all the decisions and policies, etc., that we make are looked at through 3 different lenses. So if you go to the next slide, what we call our triple bottom line, which is the people, planet, and pounds. So for the pounds, the financial sustainability, that's obviously standard part of any decision making. So the problem we were trying to solve was, how do we make sure that people and planet get the same attention, the same visibility as the pounds element? And that's where the decision wheel comes in. So looking at the next slide, thank you. Just to give you a little bit more detail, there's an inner and outer wheel on both of the wheels. So the outer environmental wheel asks report authors or decision makers to look at the impact on 11 planet areas. And many of these echo or are similar to that in the Doughnut Economics wheel. But as I say, we've changed some of the wording, and we've changed some of the focus to reflect what we think is important and relevant to Cornwall. And similarly with the inner wheel, which is the social, the people impact, so on areas such as safety or health or community and culture. And the second wheel is the equality and inclusion wheel, which is on the next slide. And again, that's got an inner and an outer wheel. The outer wheel we have in the UK, an Equality Act with 9 protected characteristics. So there are questions on those on the outer wheel. And then the inner wheel asks us to consider other impacts that are important to us as a council. So for example, most recently, we added in experience of care, because that's about people who have been through the social care system as children in the UK, and evidence shows that they can suffer worse outcomes in many areas. So we want to make sure that we're doing all we can to support them. So if you go through to the next slide, that's the bit that won't work, that you haven't got. What I was going to do, and I can do this, I can perhaps do it at the end if there's time and people want, is just show there's a little video of
you can try it now.
How it works. Shall I try it now?
Yeah, if it's within
right.
time.
So if I go to share again, let me try and see if that one works better. So let me go to the presentation. So this is just to give you a glimpse of how the portal works. So as I say, it's a web-based tool. Report authors would go in and they would be required to answer a series of questions. I don't know if that, sorry. So they will be required to questions on each of those areas that I've just outlined. And if there is an impact, further questions are generated so that we can understand the scope. So how many people does it affect? What's the size of the greenhouse gas impact, for example? And it's the answers to those questions for this wheel that generate the colours on the wheel. And I'll show you a bit later. It's a 5-point scale. So the red means there's a significant negative impact, and there's 5 right up to the bright green, which is the significant and long-term positive impact. So that just gives you a quick glimpse of that. Again, if anyone's interested, happy to share that as well. The equality and inclusion wheel works slightly differently. So that's not based on the numbers. How that works is report authors are required to go in, answer questions on each of the areas, whether there's an impact, and there's space to write in what that differential impact would be, whether positive or negative. And one of the key things about the wheel is that ability to think through, well, what mitigating actions can we put in? If there's going to be a negative impact, what might that look like, and how can we reduce that negative impact? And then the report author would select the impact in terms of whether it's very positive down to very negative, and that in turn would colour all the segments of the wheel. And as people go through that, as you can see, the wheel gets populated, and and one of the things is people are required to answer at least one question on each of the areas, so that we know that each of those areas have been addressed. So how is it used in practice? So it is a requirement for our formal decision making. So it is now firmly embedded in our decision making processes, but it can be used for any size of project, really. So right from the really big infrastructure projects that we might be involved in, down to the smaller internal policy changes that we might want to introduce. There is an established review and approval process for all decision wheels. So it's not just that one person goes in, fills in some questions, and that's it. There's then a review by an independent group of officers from within that directorate, and it is signed off by a senior manager. But I think the really important thing about the wheel is that it asks people to think about these different impacts and mitigations at an early stage. So ideally, people should be completing this at an early stage of their decision or report. As I say, it goes through a series of questions. It helps authors explain their reasoning, and it gives decision makers and elected members the ability to see the potential impacts in different areas. And it's because it's so visual, it's a really great tool for communicating these impacts as well. So it now forms part of most of our formal decision-making reports. So just a little reflection back, there's some challenges in introducing it. It did take considerable time and resource, not just to develop it, but to embed it in the processes, to make sure everybody who needed to be was trained to use it. So there is sometimes some reluctance. Some officers within the council might see this as an additional process, just something else they've got to do. But actually, because what we're asking reflects the requirements of the council, it's actually quite an easy way to do it. And it's like a lot of things, you get out what you put in. So the more people engage with the process, then the more positive it is, and the more it helps support good decisions and good projects. So, but doing it early is critical, because obviously just filling it in at the end, there's less time to reflect and less time to learn. But as I say, what it does do, it gives us a graphic that's understandable for everybody. It forms part of our report, so people can see. Members of the public now know about it, and will ask about, has a decision wheel been completed for this piece of work, if there's something they're concerned about. It makes people think about the wider impacts, not just what they might think about in terms of making a decision. So it facilitates more cross-departmental, more cross-partnership working. And has really helped strengthen our governance and decision-making processes. If anybody is thinking about introducing something similar, an impact assessment tool, just some thoughts about thinking about the time and resources and the technical skills required. It's not just the technical ones, but as I say, the training, and make sure the support's done, that the communications plan is there, so you're clear about why you're doing it and what's required. Buy-in from the highest level is critical. So when we launched this, our then leader and chief executive were firm champions, and that's really important in getting this kind of thing embedded. And the other thing is, as I've sort of very quickly shown, it is adapted to the Cornwall context. So the questions, the methodology, the parameters set within the tool that will turn something red or yellow or bright green, they're set for Cornwall. So anybody else, so we're happy to share what we can, but it's worth thinking through what would work best for your area. So just quickly in summary, because I think I'm running out of time, what we've got is a single impact assessment tool. So we did have two separate processes, and now they're together in one, the environment and the equality. They use the same 5-point scale. So as I referred to earlier, that's set out there. We have it on a web portal, so it's easily available to everyone who's a Cornwall Council employee. Unfortunately, at the moment, we can't, because it's embedded in our systems, we can't share it more widely, but we're happy to talk about how we did it and what we can share. And as I say, we've got these two exportable graphics, which really helps illustrate the impacts and can be copied and pasted into different reports. So I will leave that there, and hopefully that sharing worked a bit better at the end than it did at the beginning.
Thanks, Emma. There are still some gray squares, but they didn't cover the main part.
Okay.
So I kind of
sorry about that. I don't know.
I let them slide and let them say I've seen them. They're here to interfere. Thank you so much for your work. And what Emma hasn't said is that Cornwall essentially has, since you have been the first one to pretty much invent this sort of an impact assessment wheel through the lenses of Doughnut Economics, and have been generously sharing it with others, you have been inspiring quite a few other places to start developing their own approach, including some of the speakers today, which is the kind of peer-to-peer inspiration that we love seeing at Deal. So thank you for your ongoing willingness to kind of share and allow others to copy and build on your work. Any questions for Emma? Did you want to say something? Sorry.
No, just thank you. I'll have a look through the comments.
Yes, I'll leave you to pick up the comments, and I will invite our next speaker, Diane Imbert, a manager of impact assessment and transition with FAB, an organization that is a part of the Valence Romans Aglo territory in France, to talk about their work. And let me just spotlight you, and Diane, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. So I'm gonna try to make like a short presentation of our work. So it's been it's been about 3 years now that we started to work with Doughnut Economics and trying to adapt it in our project territory and find a way to use it and to make it usable for the territory and the municipality. I'm gonna go back a bit in the history of the organization and everything.
What?
So Valence Romans agglomeration is a conurbation in the south of France. It regroups about 54 municipalities, and it's 220,000 inhabitants in the territory. It's kind of urban rural area. You have 2 cities and a lot of rural places around. And it has like a big history with the shoemaking and the leather making in the area. And I'm saying that because it's one of the opening of how and why we've been starting to work with Doughnut Economics, because this whole leather industries just completely fall down like 20 years ago. And it from there started like a big dynamic of social economy and to trying to rebuild some industry and the economy of the territory. From there was born an initiative called Startup de Territoire, which is Startup Territory, which was a project to help citizens and gather citizens to make them create and generate some new projects to face the new challenges. At the beginning, most of them were like social challenges on the territory, but nowadays, like in the last 10 years, all the environmental challenges have been like taking so much more spaces that most of the projects are on both fields, social and environmental. From there was born the public establishment where I'm working at the moment, FabT, that like our role is to help those businesses and help the citizen and those projects to build them on the territory. And as we work directly with the municipality, like 3 years ago, we've been starting to think, all right, there is a lot of people here in this place that are very involved in some aspects, very close, like very engaged against climate change, social exclusion, and many other things. But the municipality is very far from those questions, even though they would like it to, but it's quite old-fashioned and they have to move a bit more. So we offered to try and start to work with Doughnut Economics, first of all, to assess the project. So I was saying the local context is coming from like an initiative of economical resilience, going to like a larger resilience on all fields. And the question that was asked by the municipality was how to consider social and environmental impacts in the public action through the main action and the main investment project. Meaning, how are we using the money within the municipality and which kind of projects are we building and what impacts do they have? And we figured that it would be very interesting to do that within the Doughnut, like considering a social foundation and ecological ceiling, and see how those projects could be within those two limits and which impacts they will have. So the mission we had was building the systemic assessment tool for the project, and also like to improve the acculturation of the sustainable development objective within the whole municipality. I was hearing that Nathalie was saying that, and I think it's like a subject for all of us, because the municipality is 4,000 people working there, so there is a lot of people there involved that could make a change. So that was a key. So we decided, so the question was the Doughnut what for? And first of all, it was like a diagnosis, because from where we were starting, we were figuring that, okay, we have to diagnose the project and what we are doing and what is the impact in an ecological and social level. Also, meanwhile, it was a revealer, because sometimes we did have an impact, but it was not even known or noticed and wasn't been done on purpose. So if it was a good impact, it was done on purpose, and if it was a negative impact, it was sometimes not even known. So we had to like put some light on this. Also, this whole project with the Doughnut could work because we co-constructed it with all the services, and we built up all the tools together, and this created like a collective ownership, like of the tool and of the sustainable development issues. And what we figured is like two other things that appears within the use of the Doughnut was like showing and enlightening those impacts helped us to like raise some money from Europe or UN and stuff like this, like of this whole system. And last of all, it really helped all the project manager to very manage their own project and their own services through the lens of the donut, and not only through the lens of how much money do we use and is the service that we are giving is done or not, and giving a wider aspects of the project. When we decided to use the donut, like it was like 3.5 years ago, and it was like we were like, okay, what are we gonna do? And we wanted to use it because of the shape of the donut and those aspects. But quite quickly we figured that we will have to adapt those aspects of the donut through our project of territory, and to make it more accurate with our own territory. So I just put it there, and we decided to link them with the SDGs to have like an aspect that will be known with, like to make links with the SDGs. And that's how we created our own donut. Here are those two are examples, and I'm going to explain you how we fill them like within the project. Because first of all, we were like, okay, we're gonna assess and evaluate the whole project of the municipality. And quite quickly, we figured that it would be hard to evaluate the whole things, and we will be starting with some small project and take each project through each project. And like this, we will be able to move more things and have like a clear vision of what we were doing. So that's the process we use. I'm going to go quite quickly because it's not so the question was like, we were going to see like a project manager and say, okay, what's the impact of the project? And they were like starting to say, okay, we have impact on waste, on water, on accommodation, I don't know. And we were like feeling something which was something more instinctive, like what do we think as an impact? And in a second time, we were like, okay, so we think this has a good impact or a bad impact, but what and which indicators can we show and use to prove that, or like to show that? So we've been using a big range of different indicators that could be qualitative, quantitative, normative, and also from the citizen itself, like from the users. And from there, we build this kind of Excel sheet that I'm put here, which is we collect the indicators, and then we graded each indicator from a scale from -3 to +3. It's like say -3 the more outside of the donut, and +3 the more into the donut. And we draw this shape and of grading the whole indicator for the whole project, and then from there we draw some donut in our shape. I was gonna say those indicators are green when they meet because we had, and I mean, as everyone using the donut, I think the difficulty is always to where do we put the limit between for the ceiling and the social foundation. And here we decided a few rules, but sometimes it's a bit flexible, sometimes we had them, but that could be not as objectives and not the most scientifical aspects, but that's what we decided to use for like these 5 years. So yeah, I can share that to you, but mostly if they are rather higher than the average, if they respect the law and the legislative framework, and if they are in a process of improvement, and we also use a lot of scientific objective within the environmental ceiling. So that's why how we read it. It's like outside the donut will be in red and with grading, and inside the donut we also decided to grade because sometimes you could be into the donut but the wage like could be the grade could be increased and it could be bettered. To use the donut, we've been assessing very like a large range of projects, very different kind of project actually. And so that's how we use the donut mainly, was to assess those projects within 5 years, because we started 2 years after the election, let's say, and we decided to assess all those projects that the municipality invests a lot of money within the time of within those 5 years, and seeing if those projects were improving the impacts during those 5 years. So we are actualizing the indicators every year. So I was saying it's a big range of projects, going from a renovation of public lighting to the creation of a new central kitchen to the nursery plan, and so very different type of things. Now we see that we can also use it, and we started to use it like also as a choice for an orientation of a project, because all the projects that are listed here were already started, and now we start to use the donut with projects that haven't started yet. So we can very shape the project with the donut and change the orientation before it started. Let's say about the location, the material used, and everything. Also, so it's like a decision tool, like shall we do it, and shall we do it here or in another place, and which way? And as I say, we also evaluate the whole territorial project. I think I'm done here. Is just example of Excel sheet that I put just to show you how it could work, but it's not the most interesting like this. So I think I'm done, and if you have any question, I'll be happy to answer as well.
Thank you so much, Diane. And I think there are already questions in the chat, and I do encourage you also to, as I said, check out our cities guide and get links to read more about the case studies. And Diane, I do hope you will be like Grenoble, sharing more of that public work, because those Excels that you quickly shared and say aren't very interesting, I actually found very interesting. And because in your case, you haven't used a single set of indicators for all projects, but really tailor them and customize them and develop them for each project individually. There's a lot of in-depth knowledge and understanding of what it means to be tracking the ecological ceiling and social foundation of place. We have one more presentation for today, and I will immediately pass the floor to Tink to finish this rich session. We have Tink Pond, Sustainability Manager from the city of Nanaimo in Canada. Tink, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And are you able to see the screen?
No. Are you sharing?
Okay, let me try again.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me here, and thank you, Dio, for hosting this platform. So I'm the manager of sustainability with the city of Nanaimo, and I will be happy to share a little bit of our donut journey. So first of all, a little bit about, just the context. So Nanaimo is a coastal city on Vancouver Island, British Columbia, on the west coast of Canada. It's located in a BC coastal temperate rainforest, so it rains a lot and it's very lush. We're situated also in the traditional territory of the Nanaimo First Nation that inhabited this land for millennials. Currently, we have over 100,000 residents, and it's considered one of the fastest growing regions in Canada. The city has a coal mining history, but now it has transitioned into a regional service center and a transportation hub. So how we started, so around 2019 and early 2020, the city was due to develop a long-term plan for the city's continued growth and development and future vision. The city council was really inspired by Kate Raworth's work on the Doughnut Economics, and decided that the city should adopt the model as a guiding principle and integrate this model into our city plan development. So fast forward in 2021, the city completed through very wide kind of public engagement and cross-organization engagement, developed the city plan, which set the vision for Nanaimo for the next 25 years. What is significant is that although the legislation only requires us to develop an official community plan, which is essentially a land use plan, we took this opportunity to develop a comprehensive, fully integrated plan. So this is not only our land use plan, but it's also the integration of those 7 plans. And what that really means is that we no longer have these separate citywide plans or strategies. This is the one plan that everyone looks at, and it will be updated at the same time. So this is, for example, the climate action and resilience plan is embedded in this city plan. So these are policy level documents, and in our city plan that is adopted by our council in 2021, it used the Doughnut framework and kind of downscale to the city level, and then we developed the Nanaimo Doughnut framework. And from there, there were these 5 city goals that are connected to the concept of the donut. So on the outside, it was the Green Nanaimo city goal, which encompass all the environmental objectives. And then in the inner circle, where we talk about social foundations, there are these 4 other city goals: connected, healthy, empowered, and prosperous. So the entire city plan was organized in a way that capture all these elements that we have jurisdictions on. And then following that, we also develop an integrated action plan. So the city plan, in order not to be hugely onerous to update and really keep it as a strategic level planning policy and document, that we captured most of the policies. And then for the actions that need to be updated, and we have this kind of a living document which serve as a library of the actions that we intend to implement. So this becomes the integrated action plan. And so again, this is fully integrated, and we pull the actions from 43 plus documents, plans, policies, from across the organization, update them, and then put into the integrated action plan. And then the last piece is a monitoring strategy. So the trio of these documents work together, and then they're meant to provide the visions and spell out their actions. And then the monitoring strategy is to tie these things together. It's meant to provide meaningful, holistic insights and tell us if our actions have been effective and meaningful, and it helps track the progress towards our city goals. And so when we're developing the monitoring strategy, we incorporate the multi-capital scorecard methodology. This methodology has been used for organizations to move beyond the incremental progress and looking at how to develop kind of context-based sustainability indicators. And this has been transformative in terms of how we select our indicators. And so I'll just touch on this very briefly, how that connects to the Doughnut Economics. So for starters, we have some ways to define and categorize our indicators. So we define key indicators that we're going to track as those that can tell us how we're doing at a very high level and how close or how far we are to our defined goals and aspirations. And related to that, since we're going to use that to track how close we are to our goals, we also put a lot of efforts in defining what those goals are. and specifically how that connects to, the limit and thresholds that is presented by the environmental and the social aspects of the donut. So the sustainability end goals are defined as those that are quantified science or ethics-based goals or aspirations that take into account the environmental limits and a basic standard for well-being that all residents have a claim of achieving. So those are the key indicators and the sustainability end goals that we try to develop. And then, but we also recognize that there are many other indicators that will be really useful. So we have these other group of indicators. These are supportive indicators, and it could be incremental indicators. They tell us how we're doing in specific areas and can show us over time if we're moving in the right direction. And then we develop targets to show us, what we're trying to achieve in that time frame and when we want to achieve it by. So the differentiation of these indicators are meant, like they have different purposes. So I want to use this analogy of, how to keep a big picture in mind while also not ignoring the specifics. So the key indicators are kind of like, the picture on the left. It doesn't provide necessarily the greatest details, but it gives us, a sense of, the picture, the colors, the shape, and really help us, always keep a high-level view. Whereas the supportive indicators, they can be very specific because in order to operationalize the donut in our day-to-day work and decisions, we do need to have some of those indicators to keep track of our progress. So we went through essentially 3 key steps in terms of the process to develop these indicators. And the first step is selection criteria for determining, areas of impact, or in Deal's data portrait methodology, they call it a dimension. So basically, these are areas that we choose to focus on that make sense to our local region. The first question we ask is if this is a significant and relevant issue to our community that we have tools to deal with. And the second question is there a science or ethics-based sustainability goal that is related to the core value of the Nanaimo framework? And if the answer is a yes to both, then that is an area of impact that we decided to monitor. And so as a result of that exercise, we developed these areas of impact. Again, you can see that it's organized by these 5 city goals in our plan. And the second step is evaluating the key indicators. So we have many indicators to choose from, and also indicators that might have not been developed that suit the purpose. So we went through this process to ask, again, a series of questions. And when we look at an indicator, we want to know, is this indicator a sustainability measure of performance and not just incremental one? So it's not just measuring the direction and, the incremental progress of our action, but is actually connected to our angle. And then secondly, what is the threshold of quantity of the resources or capitals that is needed in order to maintain and ensure the well-being of the community, if we can actually find a way to quantify. And the last step will be developing the metrics, because the indicators in these areas of impacts are so different in nature, but we want to have a way to normalize it and to visually communicate, how we're doing these different areas. So this basically is a way to normalize all the scores. And so we're looking at the actual impact, that this is what we're measuring, and against the sustainability end goal. It's basically the quantified resources or capitals involved in maintaining or sustaining the well-being of our community. And so that produces percentage score. If it equals or greater than 100%, that means we're achieving that sustainable ideal state. And if it is less than 100, that means that we have more work to do. And then we had a bit of fun because there is a famous dessert in Nanaimo called the Nanaimo bar, and you can see that is what it looks like. And for visualization, we developed this Nanaimo monitoring bar in order to illustrate where we're at. So similarly, like they have like these 3 different layers, and so if we're achieving kind of this ideal state where we're actually in that safe and just environment, we'll all be in, in that middle kind of a sweet spot, and all the indicators will be reflected as green. And then we plotted the data that we have available, for example, from year 2021. Now we have done it for several years, but each year looks very similar. But it shows like, if it is red, it's either, getting into environment overshoot at the top, or that we have a social shortfall at the bottom. And if it is green, that means that, currently we're operating within the environmental limits or providing sufficient resources to support that aspect of our social well-being. So I will just stop there, and I also just want to mention at the end that a study has been recently launched to understand the kind of challenges municipalities face in operationalizing the Doughnut model, and there are a number of people who supported Nanaimo on this journey. Is going to be posting some information there, and then they're looking for Doughnut cities to participate. And it will be great if any of the Doughnut cities is willing to participate in a half-an-hour interview to share your experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Ting, and do check out the links that are shared about the study that is coming. Really getting deeper into actually setting targets based on kind of science and ethic-based goals, something that often isn't typically what cities and municipalities end up doing, going instead for interim and political goals. But in Nanaimo, they have been really working on operationalizing essentially the ambition of the Doughnut to be meeting the social foundation within ecological boundaries. I'm conscious that we're running out of time, but also that Ting has to pick up some questions. So actually, in yet another clumsy unbalance by me, I'll maybe Ting, you can verbally answer a couple of questions that are in the chat before we close. Isabel is asking, a concern with numeric measures is that they can distract from real experience of individuals, communities. Worse, they can be gamed. How can we ensure that we monitor what matters? I have a difficult and important question to end our session with. If Ting, you want to comment briefly.
Sorry, I'm having trouble actually finding that question. Is that for just me or for everyone?
It's probably for everybody. So everybody from presenters, also others are welcome to answer. Nathalie just reposted it in the chat if you're not seeing. So it says, a concern with numeric measures is that they can distract from the real experience of individuals and communities, or worse, they can be gamed. How can we ensure that we monitor what matters? And Nathalie, did you want to comment on that?
Yes, just before Ting answers, I would say two things. First, it's really important to keep, according to me, the scientific base with the data, but also some sensitive approach. And we have not done yet this actually in Grenoble, but having some participatory process to, for example, define some social ceiling targets, etc., and making it something democratic can be a way of having also the real sense of everyday life.
Mm-hmm. If I can also add to that, it is definitely a bit of a struggle. I think that when we're selecting indicators to look at it, there's a lot of conversation with each department teams that are deeply involved in the issues to make sure that we are measuring things that reflect the realities. But we continue to have this struggle where that data doesn't actually tell you the whole picture. So there is very much a discussion about, when we're presenting the data, we also have to complement it with kind of a bit of a narrative to capture the things that the data or the numbers do not capture.
Thank you, Ting. And I think that's the thing that we're also learning from a lot of places that have been working with Doughnut Economics and identifying indicators, that They're learning, no matter where they started, whether with desktop and data or with talking with people. It's necessary to be identifying what is your story, what is the story of your place, what is the narrative of what matters and what needs to be captured based on conversations, based on the uniqueness of your place, and then how can that story be translated into data, and vice versa. How can data become tangible for the real life communities that it's actually measuring. I have to wrap up the session now in a rush. Thank you so much to our speakers today for your time. Thank you so much for all of our participants. Happy Global Doughnut Days. I know it's a rough day today, but we still need to celebrate all the amazing work that has been happening all around the world. So thank you all so much. Do check out the work of everybody in the new guide, and see you hopefully in different places in this session, in this day, and in different places in life. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you
Bye.
very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Great job, everyone.